So it'll be live here in about 2 seconds.
Oh, okay.
You're probably getting the pop-up right now.
Yes, indeed.
So I have a few people participating on Zoom, and then I will be monitoring the Facebook chat as well. So I will mute that so that it doesn't give feedback. I will be monitoring the Facebook chat so that it doesn't. There we go.
All right.
We'll give everyone a couple of minutes to join here. Looks like we are live on Facebook, the RETI website there. And this will be recorded, so if you guys miss it, you can refer back to that. And for those watching live, if you have questions as we go along, just drop them in the chat. So if you're watching on Facebook or if you're live with us here on Zoom, looks like quite a few of you are, you can utilize that chat function and ask questions as we go. I'm sure Jeremy will be very happy to answer them.
Indeed.
And we'll get started right at 3 o'clock Central Time, 4 o'clock Eastern. All right, so it is on the hour. We're just going to jump right in. Welcome, everyone. My name is Brandon. I am not Craig. I just need to change the name. I'm using his Zoom account. That way I can live stream to the Facebook page. So I am your host today. I'm a partner with the Real Estate Technology Institute. We create content for associations and their members. Every Wednesday, we're doing these awesome webinars. We do them live, and then we have the recordings available for members of the RETI that you can check out online. A lot of great content over the years, all searchable and everything. So today I have a special guest with me. His name is Jeremy, and he is a specialist with PR, all things content. So he's going to share some strategies with us today. And reminder, if you have any questions, again, put them in the chat. And let's just get started.
All right. Love it. So first of all, thanks for having me here today. Appreciate the opportunity here and looking forward to sharing some great content with your audience. For everybody else, like Brendan was saying, I'm going to run through a presentation here. If you guys have questions, just go ahead and chime in. I'm going to talk a lot about the strategy and tactics. A lot of that will include some of the tech side of things. And then once we wrap up, we're going to also open it up for questions as well. So, Brandon, am I able to share my screen here?
Yep, you should be able to.
Yes. All right. Good stuff. All right. So this is showing up okay for you?
Yep, looks great.
All right. All right. So today, I already told you guys what we're going to be talking about here today. Let's start by talking about why we want to get featured in the media in the first place. Now, it's not the fame, it's not the ego, and it's not that little logo, the as seen in blah, 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 right? It's about creating that authority status. Now, I imagine that most of the people on here are probably realtors on your live stream. Let me go ahead and throw a question out here. Can any of you guys name, is there somebody in your market who is like the go-to person that everybody knows, whether it's they hear about them on the radio, you hear about it on TV, they're always talking to the news, whatever. Is there anyone here who has seen that, experienced that somewhere?
Yeah. Unfortunately, in my market, the answer is yes, and it's not me.
It's not you yet.
Yes.
So
we got a guy that's got a lot of billboards with his arms stretched out. You might know him. His name's Chris Lindahl.
I remember you and I talking about him at one point, I think.
Yeah, so he's got his billboards that are just everywhere. Sometimes we have a drinking game, not while driving, but count how many billboards he has. And then he's got a lot of radio advertisements as well. So
Gotcha. So, well, the thing with that is like, I feel like we've all been given kind of a false perception as to how that kind of thing works, right? We've all been told, you know, go work hard, do a great job, you know, do what you're supposed to do, and just don't seek out, exposure. Don't seek out recognition for what you're doing. Like, people are going to recognize it and you'll be rewarded just by doing a great job. I think you and I are old enough to realize that that's bullshit. I learned that lesson when I was pretty young. So I was a young Marine and I had that mindset at that time. And I remember we had a change of command ceremony and my commanding officer came in. We had just switched over. He had now taken over our unit. And there was a thing in the military that I was responsible for handling. And it was a mess. It still is to this day in the Marine Corps. But he comes in, he knew that. He comes in and says, hey, Lance Corporal Knauff, go ahead and bring all the documents for the MCI program into my office. I'm going to tell you how we're going to do things different here. And I looked at him. And before I realized that the words were coming out of my mouth, I told him, no, sir, we're not going to do that. Here's how we're doing it, X, Y, and Z. Here's why we do it this way. Here's why it works. Here's why the ideas that you wanted to try aren't going to work. Now, he stared at me for what felt like an eternity, which was quite intimidating because the guy is a giant. He's a beast. And he's got this booming voice. Sounds like Mufasa from The Lion King. And it was probably a good 10 seconds before he said anything. And he just nods at me and he says, okay, Lance Corporal, seems like you've got it under control. Do this your way. And for me, that was a little bit of a red pill moment, especially funny since he looked so much like Morpheus from the Matrix. But that kind of shot to hell that whole idea of just do the job, do great, and people are going to recognize you. That was when I realized you have to talk about what you're doing. You have to get people to see what you're doing. And that's something that a lot of agents don't do, right? They're out there hustling. They're showing houses. They're doing a great job serving their clients, but they're not getting all of that information out there in front of them. And that hurts them. So let's talk about what that authority status does for you and your business. The first thing it's going to do is it's going to speed up the sales cycle. Now, you can't control things 100% of the time, but when you're perceived as an authority, people take your knowledge as more valuable, more insightful, and they're more likely to listen to you. So if you're negotiating and you're perceived as an authority, you're going to have a lot smoother and faster sales cycle. Now, there's a little bit of a caveat to this. You are able to charge higher prices in most industries. While in the real estate industry, you can't necessarily charge higher prices, you can be more selective in the listings that you take when you're perceived as an authority, right? So in doing that, you could focus on, let's say, very large luxury homes, or you could focus on a particular type, whatever it is, right? Whatever your niche is. And then by doing that, because you're able to be selective in what you're taking on as listings, you're now able to build a smoother process. And that process makes a huge difference in how smoothly things go. Also in terms of how your clients perceive you, right? Like if everything is smooth versus other transactions that they've had, they're going to perceive you as a far better realtor, which means they're going to refer more people. Things are going to be better for you in general. And then it also helps you to attract opportunities. So Brandon, you're a good example of this, right? You're out here, you're in the media, you're writing articles at various news outlets, realtor.com, Inman, several others. That's led to a lot of opportunities for you. People want you to speak. They want you to be involved with groups like this. They want to do business with you. These are the kind of things that happen when somebody becomes a recognized authority in their market. So let's talk a little bit about how we get featured. So the first step is to take control of your online image. Most people don't do a very good job of this, especially in the real estate industry. Now, if somebody looks you up, if they go and Google you, which most people are going to do, most people have a kind of sketchy image in terms of what you're going to find for them. So you may not find anything for a lot of people, or you may find like, one or two things. Maybe there's a social media profile or a website that their broker provides under the umbrella of the services that they provide. That doesn't present a very good image of you. It doesn't present a trustworthy and confident and capable image, right? So we want to give the impression, well, not just the impression, but you're actually able to execute. But we want to demonstrate that we are solid, we're professional, we're competent, we're able to solve their problems, right? So there's a few different things we can look at here. The first is we want to go through all of our social media and make sure everything is consistently branded. And you want to have a profile on all of the major platforms. So this is a little bit of an older slide here, but in this case, I've got LinkedIn, I've got Facebook, I've got Twitter, YouTube. But you also want to look at having a profile on TikTok as well these days. The other thing that you want to look at is controlling what the search results look like for your name. Now, I mentioned that this is a little bit of an older screenshot here. So there's some things that are missing from here that you will see if you're active in certain ways. So for example, you see the images here. There's also, if you're active on Twitter, generally speaking, although there was some recent changes that may affect that, generally speaking, there'll be a little banner that's got your most recent tweets in it, and that's taking up space in the search results. If you've got a lot of videos out there, Brandon, for example, has a YouTube channel where he talks a lot about technology in homes, right? Those would probably pop up if somebody searched for his name. And then there's also something called a knowledge panel. If you Google my name, you'll see that. And that's just another thing that demonstrates that other entities, in this case, Google, perceive you as authoritative. And all of these things play a big role in not just the things that we talked about, those 3 bullet points, but also just getting that listing to begin with. So we want to take control of what shows up in the search results, and we want to take control of how all of our social media profiles are branded. All right. So I talked about the Twitter carousel here. This is an example of what that looks like. The knowledge panel is another one. So this was an older one. It shows up in the right side, but the newer ones now actually take up the entire top of the screen and then also the sidebar, right? And then if you're writing articles regularly at various news outlets, you'll see an articles section as well. And then it will have your recent articles there. So if you guys Google Brandon's name, for example, I'm willing to bet that you'll probably see an articles section there in the search results for his name.
Correct.
All right. Good stuff, man. So the next step is we want to craft a compelling message. Now, a lot of people, they take the wrong approach here, right? We all heard our mothers tell us when we were little kids that we're beautiful and special and all that nonsense. But the media doesn't give a shit about any of us, right? They care about their story. They care about their audience. They care about what matters to them, right? So the mistake I see a lot of people make when they're trying to pitch the media is they're like, oh, we're the best. Well, you know who else says we're the best? It's everybody, right? And when you sound like everybody, you look like everybody, and then nobody's interested in what you have to say. So what you want to do is tell a story. Storytelling is really powerful because it triggers a part of the brain where you start to produce oxytocin. Now, that is the hormone in the body that creates a sense of trust. So storytelling can actually help you to get people to trust you more. So case in point, one of our clients, this guy is not a realtor, but he is a real estate investor. He had a really unique story where he was a dentist, and out of the blue, his daughter got blindsided by leukemia, late stage liver failure, and what was the third one? I know it's in here somewhere. Oh, all right. The third one is not showing. I don't see it in here. I may have missed it in here. In any case, health crisis. He realizes that he's not going to be able to continue to run his practice while supporting her through this challenge. So he immediately sold his property or sold his practice, put all of the proceeds into real estate, and then helped her get through this process. Now, the other dentists reach out to him once they found out, and they're like, well, how are you, supporting yourself? How are you getting income if you don't have a practice anymore? And David, as he started telling them what he was doing, that led to some people asking for advice, which then led to kind of informal coaching, which then led to formal coaching, which then led to a mastermind group that's got several hundred people in it, paying a very hefty membership fee every year. So when you can leverage a story like that, and a lot of people don't think they've got a great story, but every person who's ever said, I don't have a story, Jeremy, I don't have anything interesting in my background. When I sit down with somebody, within 10 to 15 minutes, I can pull a killer story out of you. So I guarantee you that every one of you has a great story that when you leverage that, it's going to help you tremendously in getting featured in the media, and also help you just in day-to-day interactions with your clients. Now, I want to be very, very blunt with this. Like, there's no such thing as a white lie when it comes to this kind of stuff. The more prominent you get, the more people that are going to be looking to kind of bring you down. Like, we all see that every day. The people who were our heroes now become our enemies to a certain segment of society. And if you misrepresent the truth, exaggerate the truth, whatever, you're going to get eventually caught. And besides that, it's just the wrong thing to do. There was a guy who did that. Brandon, I don't know if you and I ever talked about this guy, but he was a veteran, and he basically embellished the hell out of his story and used that to get a bunch of media coverage. Well, it turned out that the whole thing was fake. He was a veteran, but he actually never served, never went anywhere, never deployed, never did anything, and eventually got found out. And as a result of that, all of the media that he was ever featured in got pulled down, and he was blacklisted by all of these major media outlets. So wow. It's definitely not a thing you want to do. And for what it's worth, like, almost always that starts off innocently. They're like, well, I'm not very interesting. I don't have a big grand story. So let me just embellish a little bit. It's just this one little white lie. And then you just keep stacking those up. And the next thing you know, you went from, you're a veteran and you were a supply clerk to now you're like General Mattis's, personal bodyguard. Like, it escalates that fast. So we always want to be completely authentic, completely truthful. So that being said, your next step is to pitch the media. So the first thing we want to do in this is we have to get their attention. Now, that's more challenging every day because there's so much going on in the news. There's always something crazy. There's a lot of noise out there. So we have to find a way to cut through all of that to really get the journalist's attention, whether it's, a writer, a producer, an anchor, whatever. So one way to do that is by being the first or the only at something. Now, this is one of the weaker ways to do this, because when you're first, that can be a sign that maybe you're too early to market. If you're the only person doing a specific thing, maybe it's not the best idea, right? So this could be a thing, but you just have to use it very selectively.
I actually had a bit of success with that strategy.
Yeah, which one was it? Was it about the smart tech for the homes or something else?
No, actually. So we were first to market with aerial photography. So
okay,
using drones and stuff, and got featured that way. And then we managed to pull it off again with 360 technology. Here in Minnesota, we were the first to adopt, or at least the first to go to the news with it about having like Matterport and things like that. Come to find out, there were other companies that did it before us. They just were very quiet about it. So that was cool.
I love it. So, and that actually ties into the third point. We'll talk about why that actually worked in this case in a second. But another approach is taking a controversial position. Now, this one is one that you have to be careful with, because if you take too controversial a position, it can backfire. And if you don't know the details of a thing and you kind of get into it, then it can definitely hurt you as well. Case in point, there was a guy who was working with a PR company that was, let's say, less than ethical. And they had lined him up with a TV segment, but they didn't really prep him on what it was even about. And as they're interviewing him, this was on January 6th, they're interviewing him and they're asking him about what was going on January 6th. And, you know, he was like, oh, it's no big deal. It's just some people, you know, whatever, just completely downplayed it. And while the way the media has represented things obviously is not entirely accurate on both sides, at the time, it seemed like A, he described it as B, and that ended up costing him millions of dollars in lost business because people didn't like what he said, although he was only saying his response based on a lack of knowledge on what was going on. So you have to be very careful with a controversial position. You have to make sure that it does align with who your target market is, right? Who's your ideal prospect? And that touches on another aspect that a lot of people don't really dial in, and that is actually having a very well-defined niche. So this is something that I talk about a lot. You know, when you find a very specific niche, all of your messaging is directed specifically to them, it puts you in a very different situation. Now, if you've got a well-defined niche, you have more latitude in taking a controversial position because it may be something that could piss off a lot of other people, but maybe they love it. So you just have to be aware of who you're trying to turn into clients. And then a third way to do this is connecting to current events. So Brandon, I'm going to speculate that when you did that with the drones, that was when everybody was all talking about drones and it was like the hot thing and all the kids wanted the drones and all of that. Yeah?
Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. All right. So it's tying the first with the current events. Now, there's a cool way that we can use technology to stay on top of current events, because I mean, there's always so much going on that it's hard to keep track of everything. So a few things that I like to do is I like to set up news alerts for the industries that my clients are in. Now, a lot of our clients are in the real estate industry. So obviously we're monitoring news there. Google News Alerts are a great way to do this. If you guys just Google News Alerts, it should come right up. And then what you do is you go in and you put in whatever search terms are applicable to you. So, you know, Brandon might do like, you know, Minnesota real estate or something like that. Whereas I would do different topics. But the idea is Google is constantly monitoring the web. And every time they come across news on those topics that you've selected, they will email it to your inbox. Now, I will say this can fill up your inbox pretty damn quickly. So set up a special folder, set up a filter, and then what will happen is all of those news alerts go into when they hit your inbox, they immediately get pushed into that folder. And you could do this whether it's if you're using G Suite or whether you're using Outlook. You could probably do it with any other platform as well. But basically, that's putting them all into a place. And then this way, you can go and batch through those when is appropriate for you, right? You may set certain times throughout the day to go look at those. You'll want to set these up to come in as they happen. There's just a couple of settings in there when you're setting up Google News Alerts. You want them to come in as they happen. And then just keep an eye on these. This is going to give you great insight as to what various news outlets are covering. Now, you could hit some of your local news outlets. You could look at, you know, your local TV stations. You could look at your local newspapers, local magazines. All of these things, you're going to look for news from them. The other thing you can do is there's a lot of different tools for this, so I'm not going to name any specific ones, but setting up RSS feed readers. So this just gives you the most current recent articles. And in a lot of cases, you know, if you're going to a specific news outlet, you can actually get feeds by category. So you're not having to look at everything that outlet is putting out. So if you go to your local, all of your local media outlets, get all of the RSS feeds for them as it pertains to real estate, you're going to see everything that they're talking about. So if they come out with an article, let's say right now, there's a lot of stuff in the news about the mortgage rates. If you're keeping track of what's going on there and you see something come up, and maybe they told a great story, but they're missing a piece. Maybe there's something really important for their audience to know that they didn't mention in there. That's a great opportunity to reach out. You're touching on current events, but you're sharing with them something that's missing, and you're the expert who can answer that for their audience. So that's how we find a good hook here. All right. The next we want to do is we want to hook them emotionally. So there's a few different ways we can do this. And this is absolutely essential because we have to get them to see that and let it really register with them in a way that they're going to want to cover that story. So one way we can do that is what's called the hero's journey. I've got an example of that in my life where prior to pivoting to PR, I ran my agency as a full service agency, and I had run it that way for, God, probably like the last 20 years. I don't remember exactly how long it is, but I ran it as a full service agency from like the time I got out of the Marine Corps until several years ago when I was faced with a health crisis that almost killed me. I spent 2 years on my deathbed and my business withered away to zero. We burned through all of our money just trying to keep me alive. And when we ran out of everything and I had to get back into the work world, I leveraged public relations along with some social media and SEO to basically put myself back on the map in a big way. And in doing that, I skyrocketed up faster and bigger than I ever had. And shortly after that, I realized that like this is something that everyone needs. And that was when we pivoted to that. So I guarantee you that almost every one of you has a story like that. I would actually probably say every single one of you has a story like that, even if you don't realize it. So look around in your life, dig into it. And if you can't come up with something, ask your friends, ask your family. I guarantee you somebody can tell you something, even if you don't see it, because we're buried in our own lives. We're dealing with everything we're dealing with. So we don't see the things about us that other people may, positive or negative. So if you don't think you have a story like that, ask your friends, ask your family, see what they find. Another way to do this is excitement, joy, fear, or anger. Now, if you look at what trends on social media, if you look at what trends in traditional media, a lot of it taps into one of these four emotions. Now, I will say you want to be careful which ones you use. Excitement is great. Joy is great. Fear can be great in moderation, and anger in even more moderation, because it's not just getting that attention, but it's then how does that whole story make people feel, right? So yeah, you may get some attention, you may get a bunch of media coverage, but if all of that leaves people in a negative mood, it could adversely affect you. So you want to try and find a positive angle. There are cases where fear and anger can be used. Fear in this industry, we see a lot of people talking about what's going to happen to the market, right? Interest rates are going up. As a result of interest rates going up, home transaction volumes going down. The other side of it is there's a lot of people leaving the industry. I think, I don't know if you've seen more recent numbers, Brandon, but the last I saw, it's like the last 6 months, something like 60,000 agents have left the industry. That's another example of fear. A broker might come in and pitch a story using fear, talking about agents leaving, and leverage that in a way to talk about how he's doing great things to keep his team, which then not only gets them in the news, but also makes other agents see why they would want to go work there. So that's an example of that in practice. And then another way is breaking news. So how does breaking news have to do with hooking someone emotionally? Well, we all like to be the person in the know, right? We want to be the one sharing something that nobody else knows. And when you can share breaking news, you're able to do that. Now, the caveat here is, what is breaking news, right? I've seen people, because I'm actually I'm a publicist and a journalist. I get a lot of pitches from people, and the number of times that I have seen somebody send me a pitch and they're like, breaking news, my brokerage opened up a new office in such and such city. That's not breaking news. Breaking news, the way that I tend to categorize that is it comes down to something that is going to have a profound impact on a tremendous number of people. When I say tremendous number of people, it doesn't have to be, hundreds of millions or even millions, but a large portion of their audience in a profound way. So if a piece of news could impact a large portion of their audience, let's say 50% or more, in a significant way, then that would be considered breaking news. Anything short of that is absolutely not breaking news. And then we need to connect your story to their audience. So this one, I've got a great example here, a little bit on the dark side. Brandon, do you recognize that picture?
I do not.
Okay. So that is the Space Shuttle Challenger when it blew up back in the, I don't know, it was in the early 80s. I forget the exact year.
That would be why I don't recognize it.
Yes, you're a bit younger than me. So I watched this live in class when it happened. And I think I was, I don't know, maybe 8 years old. So back then, schools were very different. When they would bring out a TV, it was like these giant, massive boxes that they strapped down on top of this big metal cart. And when the teacher would come hauling that cart out, we all knew that the day was going to be great because we're going to be watching TV. The lights are going to be off. We can chill out. We don't have to do work. It's going to be great. And so, all the typical pre-launch stuff is going on, and, that the volume's kind of low on that while she's talking about the space program and previous launches and various things from history within NASA. And then finally, as we start to approach the actual liftoff, I'm listening to her, and then she just stops. And now the announcer guy at NASA, he's like, all right, he's counting down from 10 to 1, and then and now here we are, 3, 2, 1, liftoff. And this shuttle careened through the air for about 1 minute and 40 seconds. And then boom, blew up. Now here we are, a bunch of little 8-year-olds watching this live on TV, and my teacher had no idea what to say. And eventually it started to get awkward. She just kind of stood there with her mouth hanging open. And she was just so at a loss for what to say or do that she said, does anyone have anything they'd like to say or ask about this? And I'm looking around the classroom, and I'm just seeing everyone else looking just as awkward. And nobody's saying anything. So 8-year-old Jeremy raises his hand. Now, there was an important detail to the Space Shuttle Challenger mission. Do you remember what was, or not remember, you would have learned about it afterwards, but do you know what was unique about Challenger versus all of the previous space missions?
I do not.
Okay. We had somebody by the name of Kristen McAuliffe on that space shuttle.
Ed already has the answer in the chat.
There you go.
Says
there you
the
go.
teacher was on board.
All right, there you go. And that's the other part of
Ed
it.
wins.
Yes, Ed wins. We're gonna give Ed something for that. I don't know what it is yet, but we're gonna give him something. So Ed, make sure you and I connect at some point. All right. So this story in just a second is going to highlight the importance of understanding your audience. So as I'm looking around the room, and nobody's raising their hand, I went ahead and raised mine, and she says, yes, Jeremy, what do you have to say about this? I said, I think they should send more teachers to space. She did not find that funny. She did not laugh, but the rest of the class did. And that's who my audience was. And this is really important because when your messaging is really dialed in, the people who it's meant for, they're going to love it. It's going to appeal to them. It's going to resonate with them. The people who it's not intended for are going to hate it. And that's totally fine. That's the way it should be. And that's something that we have to get comfortable with. So knowing that, the next thing we have to do is we have to start nurturing relationships with our contacts in the media. Now, there's a lot of cool ways we can use technology to do this. One of the ways I like to use is Twitter. So I know you're on Twitter a lot, Brandon. I'm there a lot as well. Twitter, for all of its good and bad, that is where all of the journalists are. So if you go to Twitter, you can connect with all of these folks. What I like to do is, if you go to a search, you can search for each media outlet. So you can go to Fox Business, you can go look for MSNBC, CNN, News Nation, Newsmax, whatever, all of these outlets. And when you search for that, down that list is going to be the journalists, the right there, or anchors there, or producers, whatever. All of those people, or some of them anyway, are going to be listed there. So that's a really powerful way to find these people. And then we'll talk a little bit more about building and nurturing those relationships. And I'm going to show you a few other ways to find some of these journalists using technology. So LinkedIn is another great tool. So if you go and you search for a media outlet on LinkedIn, it's going to show you that media outlet's company page, which company pages are close to useless on LinkedIn. But the beauty of this is if you scroll down, you will see the people that work there. So now you can connect with all those people on LinkedIn as well. Now, social media does have a flaw, and that's you're going to see who you see, and the people will see who they see based on interactions, right? So you could be following all these people, but not necessarily see their content, and they may not see your content. So what you have to also do then is find a way to stay in touch with them, to follow them. So one of the ways I like to, or not just follow them, but engage with them, right? See their content. So one of the ways I like to do that is we use Google Sheets for this, but we'll go and we'll take all the contacts that I want to stay in touch with and I want to engage with and build relationships with. We'll put them in a list, and then we've got all of their social media URLs. So what this does is it allows me to bypass the algorithm. If I go into Twitter, I'm not going to see most of the journalists that I'm following, even though I want to, and even though I want to engage with them. So by doing this, I can now directly go to their profiles, and I can go through and, like their stuff, comment on their stuff, reshare it if it's applicable. And in doing so, I'm bypassing the algorithm and making sure that they see me more often than they would otherwise. Another cool thing you can do is you can use Facebook custom audiences. So we've got a custom audience set up with our Facebook ads account that targets all of the employees of all of the major media outlets. So if I want to get something in front of them, let's say I was featured in a story. I was just in Fox Business a week or so ago. If I wanted to put that in front of other journalists, because if somebody's writing about it, I guarantee you somebody else is as well. So if I go and I put an article in front of a whole bunch of journalists, there's a good chance that if somebody's working on a story related to something like that, they may reach out to me, especially since they see that I've already been featured. I'm already vetted by these other journalists. So this is a way to hit all of those people at scale. There's something else that you can use in Twitter specifically, and that's lists. Brandon, do you use lists at all?
I do. I actually use your Excel spreadsheet idea as well for our clients. So
I love it.
I've been frustrated with the algorithm as well, and that really works well to kind of game it. And then you engage on their stuff, and then they all of a sudden they're replying back, and now they're going to see you more often. It's a slam dunk, and I think it's something that not a lot of people are taking advantage of. I think most people are just, blindly grab their phone and scroll through, and they see all the ads and get frustrated. They see it's very polarizing, right? And they're saying the same things over and over. They're not saying the people they want. And so that's a really good tactic.
Thank you. Thank you. What I like to do on my lists is, and we might be able to, I might pop up a different screen here in a little bit and show the audience how this works. But I set my lists as private so that only I can see them. I figure if I'm going to take the time to curate this list, I'm not going to make it open for every competitor in the world to go and steal. But I make my list private, and I add, like, I've got a specific list for people in the real estate industry. I've got a specific list for people in the media. I think I've got a specific list for veterans as well. But that's the approach I take. We may jump back to that one in a second. All right, so that's the presentation there in a nutshell. Let's go ahead and I'm going to pull up another tab real quick, and we'll just show them the Twitter thing here. Let's see. Okay, so if you guys go to Twitter, and then over here on the left navigation, you see your lists. What we're going to do is click on that, and then we can see here, I've got these lists here. We'll go to media for a second, and we can see that little lock icon. That means that it is private. If you edit it, you've got the name here, you've got the privacy, and that's pretty much it. So if I just scroll through this, it's going to show me a feed of everybody that's in that list. If I want to go and look for specific people, I can go and I can click on the members, right? So then from here, I can just scroll down, add, remove people, whatever. If I go to a certain person here, let's do this. Let's just say none of these people are media, but let's just say I go there. I could click on that person and then where the hell is it? Line. There we go. Add, remove so-and-so from lists. So it's real simple. And that's that in a nutshell. All right.
So mine are real estate, technology, media, and electric vehicles, because those are the people I engage with on Twitter. And depending on the mood I'm in, I might want to see different things. And if it's all mixed together, then it gets really annoying. So that's
Yes.
kind of how I have it sorted. And I mostly just use Twitter like at events, and then to engage with people like in the media and like the thought leaders, because you can ping them directly or like add to the comment, and you can get engaged there. Like that's my primary use of Twitter. Well, X, I guess now.
I love it. I don't know anybody who's actually calling it X at this point, though.
And if it's not tweeting, then what are we doing? I don't know. It's kind of weird.
Yeah. Good. I don't know how he thinks he's going to rebrand that. I mean, you can call it X, but we're still going to call those things tweets.
We'll see.
Yeah, it could change. It'll take time, but all right. So that's kind of the gist of that. And yeah, that's really important on Twitter nowadays, because I think the algorithm is really a mess in general. I love Twitter, but the algorithm's not great. This just it lets you work around all of that stuff.
And less ads too. You're scrolling through list instead of just your general feed. It tends to be less.
Yeah, that's a good point. Absolutely. All right, so I'm going to open it up for questions, and then I've also got a couple of other bullet points I'm going to run through here in a little bit as well. I'm just going to go pull that doc up. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and open up for questions, either from you or from the rest of the audience.
Awesome. Yeah, I've got Facebook pulled up as well, and taking a look here at the Zoom chat. But a question of mine, of course, is like, we're kind of talking about how to find them on Twitter and LinkedIn, but like, how are we getting their email addresses? What should that email look like? What's the best way to really,
Great question.
The pitch itself?
Right. Okay. So you're generally not, well, all right, 50-50, right? In some cases, you may find their email address on Twitter. On LinkedIn, it's almost always going to be there. So once they connect with you on LinkedIn, you should have their contact info. If not, there are tools for finding email addresses. We've got a tool that we use called Meltwater. That's going to be outside of the budget range for most people. An agency subscription to that is on the low end, several $1,000s a year. And on the high end, it goes up into the 5-figure range. But
Wow.
there's a lot of other tools out there. If you just Google, like, find email address, there's going to be a whole swath of tools that are going to show up for that. I'm drawing a blank as to what some of them are. I think Prowly is one of them, hunter.io. There's a few others like that. But there are a lot of tools for finding email addresses. In a lot of cases, if you go to the media outlets page where that particular journalist is listed, they will have their email address, that anchor or that journalist or that producer or whatever, their direct email address. So there's tools out there for finding them. Obviously, they're all paid tools, but if you do some digging, you can often find them. The other side of it is, we talked about what we're doing with Twitter. We talked about what we're doing with LinkedIn, and engaging on their content. As you do that, you're building a relationship. So you can always start the pitch via DM, right? If you follow them and they end up following you back, you can respond to them. And a lot of journalists will have their DMs open. So you can pitch them in the DM and then get their email address. Like, if they like the story, they may give you their email address, have you send everything else that way. But this is how I've connected with most journalists. I'll go connect with them on social media. I'll start to build that relationship and then, pitch them. And I'm building these relationships before I need them, right? So that when the time comes that I do need to pitch them, and in some cases it may be I immediately go follow them and pitch them. Like, it just happens immediate because there's already a story there. In other cases, I'm connecting with them because there may be something in the future. Doesn't really matter all that much. It's not like, cold calling, because they are expecting people to reach out to them with stories and pitches. So it's received a little bit differently than, let's say you went up to a FSBO and they're like, get the hell off my property. It's a little bit different relationship because that's the expectation. The expectation is that people are going to pitch them story ideas. So there's a lot of different ways to find it, but you don't have to just have the email. You can also try and use the phone. That one is a little bit less effective. And usually you're
Unheard
you're
of
not,
for us younger generation here.
yeah.
What is
And
this
the
phone you speak of? You mean the
I know,
device I
right?
use to access social media and Messenger?
Right.
I heard they have
But
email on that now.
yes, I heard that too. I will say a lot of journalists won't take calls, but it is a thing that can happen. With a lot of the journalists and producers and anchors that I'm involved with, like, I have their personal cell phone numbers. I could text somebody, and I've got some that we're just like, it's not just the business relationship, but it becomes a friendship. So I've got people that I can, text at 11 o'clock at night, and, so however you choose to communicate. I will say it's important to find out, once you do start to build that relationship, find out what method they like to be communicated with, right? Because some people may love text. Others, like there was a producer that, man, I've always had this kind of, it just felt a little off, the relationship, right? I've pitched her. We've had some things land. We've had a bunch of things not land, but I remember when I first met her, she's like, yeah, just text me anytime or whatever. And then I found that I would text her and she's like, yeah, just email it to me. So you also have to be aware of what they're, not just what they're saying, but also how they're responding, because that's going to give you some insight. They may say, text me anytime, because maybe that's an expectation that their boss says you need to always be available. But they're like, screw these people. I don't want to be available 24/7 to everybody. So they may say that it's okay to text them anytime, but they actually resent you for it. So just be aware of those cues. This is very much a people business. You can't make it entirely tech-based. It's not a volume thing. It's not the more pitches you send out, the more PR you're going to get. It really does come down to those relationships. And on that note, one of the things I wanted to touch on is one thing I have started to see a lot of lately is people trying to use AI, ChatGPT in particular, to write pitches. And That's a horrible idea. A lot of these are garbage. Chat GPT, I have found, I'm curious your experience, because I know you've been using it a lot as well. I have found that the quality of what it outputs is significantly lower than it had been in the past. Are you seeing the same
Mhm.
thing?
Yeah, so it's super easy to identify it now. And those that
Yeah.
are in the industry, it's just like, come on. Like it just tells me that you're trying to shortcut, you're
Yep.
not being genuine and stuff. And so, yeah, and I would agree that the quality has gone down. So unless you're paying for it, or maybe you're using an API and you're doing a little bit more advanced things within it, you could get better results. But also garbage in, garbage out.
Yes. Yeah, that's a
So
great point. Most people don't know how to write a prompt effectively in order to get the kind of output that they want.
a lot of it too goes back to your previous slide that like AI is just going to speak in generalities, and it has a really hard time connecting with an audience. Whereas like when you shared your story, it was like, oh well, that's impactful. It's unique to you, and it's
Right.
filled with details, and no AI is going to be able to do that. So people want stories, they want timely information, and they want exact details, all of which the ChatGPT does not do.
Yes. Not only does it not do those things, it also just completely makes things up, which
Yeah,
is
that's even more
crazy.
concerning.
Yes. I have seen Chat GPT completely fabricate quotes that it attributed to me. And I'm like, wow, that sounds interesting, but I never said that. So,
It is
so
nice though for taking transcripts and converting it to
yes.
articles, and there's a lot of things you can do with it that are worthwhile, but I would agree that you shouldn't be using it for pitches, and it's very easy to identify when someone's abusing it.
Yeah. But you actually highlighted one of the ways that we use it. And I do think it is great for, taking transcripts, for example, and turning it into an article. One of the things we used to do a lot, well, we still do, is we'll interview a client and then use that information to ghostwrite an article for them. Well, that's I mean, you write a bunch, you know how time intensive that is.
Mhm.
Um, I found, so when we would do that, you're looking at probably 15 to 30 minutes, maybe longer, interviewing them to extract all that information. Then we have to take the file, go create it. We had to listen to it over and over, or take a transcript of it, and then clean up the transcript. And then from cleaning up the transcript, then we have to rework it a little bit, because conversation versus writing is two different things. And then once that's all done, and then it's written well and it sounds great, then we pass it back to them, and they review it for technical and voice. Does it sound like them? And that would typically take several hours of work from start to finish, right? Between getting it scheduled, doing the interview, extracting everything, doing the transcripts, turning it into an article, writing it, running it back by them, going through all that process. We started using Chat GPT, and I think the prompt that we were using was something like, based on the transcript below, write an article from the perspective of speaker 2, with a page count of X, whatever it was. And I think that was actually something the page count one was one I couldn't figure out how to get them to hit. I was giving them word counts, and I think it was you that said try page count, and that solved it. But
Yeah.
like we used Chat GPT for that. And then we also had some other cool tech where, like, when we set up those interviews, we use Calendly to set that up. And I imagine most of your audience is probably familiar with that, but that's, for those who may not be, that's a tool for scheduling things. Well, we have a specific naming convention that's set up. So when they go and they schedule something, then it uses a particular naming convention when it ends up on the calendar. And then we do the interview via Zoom. And then Zoom is going to save the folder based on the name on the calendar entry. And then we use Zapier, which is an automation tool, to monitor the folder. So we're using Google Drive for desktop. So we've got G Suite. So all of our stuff is in the cloud, but our machines treat that cloud just like it's a local drive. So Zoom is set up to save to a specific folder there, which then automatically pushes it to the cloud. And then I've got Zapier monitoring that folder. And then as soon as a new folder pops in, which when Zoom is done recording and it processes the video file, then it creates the folder. If that folder has certain criteria in the name, we have an automation set up to where it goes in, it parses the folder, it finds the audio file. We don't need the video file for it. It just finds the audio file. Then it takes that, packages it, uploads it into Rev, which is a transcription service. It creates a transcript. Then, of course, Rev sends us a notification that it's processing, and then it sends us another notification that it's complete. I have Zapier also monitoring the email inbox so that once that comes in, it immediately grabs that, then goes and assigns a task in our project management system. So all of these things are done on the back end. It's all of this technology that takes hours and hours of grunt work that we don't need to touch off of our hands. So there's a lot of really cool ways to use technology in a business. And this is just some of the ways we're using it in PR, but I mean, you could use this stuff in so many different ways.
Yeah, I actually use YouTube for the transcript. So upload a video file, kicks back transcript. It's pretty darn good. Bring it over to ChatGPT, it'll clean it up for you. And then it's like something that's usable. And you can like scan it real quick for notes and stuff. But as you know, I've been interviewing 100 interesting people in real estate for Inman. And so that's been quite the undertaking. And so AI has certainly helped with just like organizing it and processing it. But of course, all the questions are my own. Everything, that I'm doing, I'm actually reading it and coming up with my own prompts to like push people further to dig deeper onto something, because otherwise, what you get is these generic articles. Everybody's got similar background, and truthfully nobody cares. So it's like, how can we get to like the nugget? Like, what's that one thing that Jeremy does that's like a little bit interesting and very insightful that we can share with the larger audience? And I think that those tools do a good job with that. So it does look like we've got a couple questions there in the chat on Zoom if you want to take a stab at those.
Absolutely. Oh, am I looking at them in chat?
I can read them to you if you would like.
No, it's good. I'll pull it up here on this other window. All right, let's see. Okay, so Ed is asking how often we should tweet or post in a way that won't get annoying for your audience. All right, so that's a great question. And the answer to that is going to be a hell of a lot more than you probably realize. Because of the algorithms, a very, very tiny percentage of your followers are going to see your content. For the most part, especially when you're first starting out, you're essentially yelling into the void, right? I could tweet 1,000 times a day. And my guess is people would probably see 1% of that, if that. So you've got a few different things at play. You've got the people who are following you versus everybody else. So, but then think of everybody else that they're following. I mean, if I go into my Twitter account right now and scroll, I guarantee you, I'm not going to see Brandon unless I grab that and just keep spinning it like the Wheel of Fortune here, right? So same is going to apply to all of you guys, especially most of you who are not active on these social media platforms. So you can post a lot more than you think. I'm of the mindset that, a few posts a day is probably good. Much beyond that, you're not going to annoy anyone, but you're not going to get much more out of it. So
diminishing returns is what I would say.
Right. Now, some people are like, well, I don't care. I'm going to automate it and I'm just going to push it out there. If you're putting out a ton of content and nobody's engaging on it, the algorithm is going to start kind of downgrading you and fewer people will see it. So it is important that your content is quality. Always focus on quality over quantity, but don't worry about annoying people. Everybody said that about Grant Cardone back in the day. Oh my God, you're an idiot. You're posting too much. Everyone's going to hate you. They're going to turn you off. People aren't going to be interested in what you have to say. Well, that dude is a beast, and he is a massive social media presence. So I think we can safely say that the number of times that you tweet or post on whatever platform is not going to hurt you 99.9% of the time, as long as you're focused on bringing real quality. Now, that's hard for a lot of people because you're busy running a business. You don't have time to create tons of content. There's a lot of ways to create some great content without putting in, essentially a second job's worth of hours. So if you say something on social media that gets a great response, hold on to that somewhere, right? Create yourself a Google Doc or a Google Sheet and store these really killer posts. And even if you don't get a lot of engagement on it, if you say something that's really profound, and it's what I would call evergreen content, something that's going to stick around and be relevant for a while, you can reshare that stuff regularly, because most people will have not seen it in the first place, right? And if you've got, weeks or months in between sharing the same thing, nobody's going to really remember, oh, hey, Steve posted that, 3 weeks ago, and I don't know why he's posting it now. Like, nobody's going to notice that. Everyone's so busy with their own lives and their own challenges that they're not paying that much attention to. So more is better as long as it's quality.
Awesome.
All right. So let's see. Shouldn't the content be customized for each platform audience, such as LinkedIn, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram? Yes and no. So certain formats do better on certain platforms, right? So Instagram, if you're doing, a graphic-based post, that's going to tend to perform better on Instagram than it would, say, on Twitter. But the content could still be the same. It's just the medium, right? How it's being delivered. So whereas you might do it as a text post on Twitter or maybe Facebook, you might have it primarily be the image aspect on Instagram. The same is going to apply. I mean, for the most part, any of these are going to be mostly fine, right? If you make a video and it's a short, right? You can go post that on Instagram. You can go post it on TikTok. I mean, you can post it on Facebook. LinkedIn doesn't tend to do super great with videos in my experience, but anything that works somewhere should work everywhere. You just have to change how it's delivered a little bit in some cases. So, anything that you could post on Facebook, for example, can go just as well on Twitter and on LinkedIn.
I would say the audience on each is different too. Like, there's probably people that are on all of those platforms, but they're not on all of those platforms all of the time. And so you might catch them here, then you might catch them there. And so I've had content where, no one's engaging with it in one area, but I'm posting the same thing, respecting, of course, the format and the medium there, in a different area. And all of a sudden it's getting tons of engagement there. And even stuff that I have reposted it from before, like I'll repurpose it at a later date. People are engaging with it as if they've never seen it before. When I can go back to the other platform and be like, man, 3 months ago, that same person commented on it. It's like they're goldfish and they forgot. So you can just recycle content over and over, across platforms, and you're fine.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's the thing and that highlights what we talked about a little bit ago. But yeah, absolutely. These people aren't going to remember it over and over, but that you may see a little bit of demographic shift from platform to platform. I mean, a lot of the people I'm involved with on the real estate side are active everywhere. So like if I post something on one platform, they're going to engage with it on all of them. But there are some kind of generalities, right? So TikTok tends to skew younger, whereas LinkedIn tends to skew older. So these are things to think about, but, the other side of this is, don't overthink it, basically.
Awesome.
All right.
So Robert's question is kind of not as related to PR, but I'll give a quick recommendation here. Just make posts about real estate. Anything you're doing, just evidence of success. You're at an open house, you're out showing properties, you take that selfie in front of a sold sign, just make it related to what you're doing, show them that you're active and be out there and get engaged. And so For everyone else that stuck with us here, I want to thank you guys for your time. Definitely thank you, Jeremy. So for those that have more questions and want to learn more about PR, how can they reach you?
All right. So unsurprisingly, I'm very easy to find. If you Google me, my social media profiles and my website will come up. I also have a group where we teach these principles. We've been in kind of a quiet period with the group, but if you go to authoritydeclassified.com, that will redirect you to the Facebook group. So I'm easy to find. Go ahead and find me on social media, guys. Go ahead and connect with me wherever you want. And one thing I do want to throw out is for Ed, who was the one who commented about the teacher, be sure to get in touch with me, Ed. What I'm going to do is I actually have a book coming out about public relations. I am going to give you a free copy of that once it is live.
Thanks. I'm jealous.
Oh, you're going to get one too.
All
That's
right.
already,
As you
that's
can
a
tell,
given.
I'm a big fan of books.
Right?
Good
So.
stuff. Everyone else will have to get on the wait list. That's exciting though. Congrats. I didn't know you were working on a book. So that's awesome.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Anyone that is watching the recording, this will be on the website there. If you aren't already a member, you can certainly sign up, get access to more of these great webinars. They happen every Wednesday. We rotate who the host is. Sometimes we bring in guests like we did today. All very good stuff. And yeah, appreciate your time. So until next time.
Thank you for
everyone,
having me.
take care.
Take care, everyone.